Howdy, and welcome to episode 12 of T-Shirts and Shawls. I'm Karen, and today is Thursday, October 27th, 2016. This is Halloween weekend, and my son is 5, and so he enjoys, picking out a costume and dressing up for Halloween, and really likes getting the candy. He doesn't like eating candy. He likes lollipops, but that's about it. But he definitely likes to go trick-or-treating. So we'll be doing that on Halloween. And then tomorrow I will take him to the zoo where they have Boo at the Zoo. And then we've got some other activities that we can possibly go to this weekend. So he will hopefully get to wear his costume a few times. He is a X-Wing pilot. So from Star Wars, basically the orange jumpsuit type of thing. So that is what he chose to be this year. And hopefully we'll have lots of fun with that. But let's go ahead and talk about the t-shirt and shawl for today. For today's shirt, I am wearing my Harry Potter fandom. So this is just a shirt that says 9 3/4. If you are a Harry Potter fan, then you absolutely know what this refers to. If you're not a Harry Potter fan, then you probably look at the shirt and wonder what's going on. Basically, platform 9 3/4 is the train platform where the students who are going to Hogwarts catch the train. So they have to actually pass through the wall between platforms 9 and 10 to get to platform 9 3/4. And I really like this shirt, first of all, because it's a really soft, comfortable shirt, but I like it because it allows me to express my fandom without necessarily screaming fandom. So that's kind of nice. But I thought that I would take this opportunity to share a picture from a trip that I took now over 12 years ago when my husband and I went to London, and we took some day trips to different areas outside London. But we spent a little over a week in London. It was a really, really fantastic time. I hope that we are able to get back sometime. And of course had to go to King's Cross Station. And find platform 9 3/4. And really, if I remember right, when J.K. Rowling wrote the book, her memory was faulty, and actually between platforms 9 and 10 is not necessarily I actually don't think there is a between. I think they're right next to each other. Anyway, but so I think it's actually between platforms 5 and 6 for the actual location that she had in mind. I don't remember if that's exactly right. But anyway, they actually had I'm going to show a picture. I'm looking down at the picture. They actually had a sign that said platform 9 3/4. And so that was very nice. And I posed, and my husband took a picture. And unfortunately, the picture, it looks like, came out kind of blurry. So here is a picture of me standing beneath a sign that says platform 9 3/4. We actually had a film camera whenever we went to London. I had a digital camera at that point, but it was one that you actually put the, is it 3 1/4 discs in? So it was a really big, bulky camera, and decided not to take that on our trip. So we actually took a film camera. So unfortunately, the picture is blurry, and since it wasn't digital, I didn't know that, and so I didn't get to take another one. But I do have the blurry picture to remember. I think now they actually have a cart full of suitcases and other wizard paraphernalia that's kind of looks like it's going kind of half in, half out of the wall. I think that they've actually kind of updated this area now. But that was back in 2004. So yeah, good times, a lot of fun. I actually made a little scrapbook of our trip. So this is a page from the scrapbook page, and a lot of good memories. But I hope we do get to go back someday, because I really enjoyed it and would like to go again, not just to London, but to visit other parts of England. Anyway, so that's a little trip down memory lane for platform 9 3/4. So the shawl that I'm going to talk about today is one that you guys have been seeing because I have been working on it. It is the one I'm wearing that I had been calling the green shawl because it didn't have a name for a long time. And then I added, showed you guys last time, purple to it. So now it's the green and purple shawl. It does actually have a name, but the green shawl is no longer completely accurate. It turned out to be a rather large shawl, so I actually went outside and took a picture so that way I had a little more space to be able to, or not picked a picture, I took a video, so I'd have a little more space to be able to show you the full shawl. So I am going to pause here and insert that video and let you see it, and then I'll come back and talk about it. Okay, so as you saw in the video, it has the 3 different panels, and so the construction of the shawl starts here with the garter tab cast on. And if you have not done garter tab cast-ons before, I have a tutorial video for that. Anyway, so it starts there, and it works out so that the center panel has this lace stitch, and the side panels are in stockinette. And then eventually the side panels get a lace pattern that gets added, and then a gradient mini skeins I used for the 3 different purples that are there at the end. The yarn that I used for this is Wonderland Yarns Cheshire Cat, which is kind of a light fingering yarn. It's sold in, I think it's 110 grams. And it's 512 yards, I believe is the yardage. And then the mini skein packs are, I remember, 128 yards each. And it comes in a pack of 5. I only used 3 because I felt like the other 2 colors, which were a much darker end of the spectrum, didn't really go with the shawl well. So I just used 3 colors. So this is something that I designed. I know I've said that in previous episodes, but in case this is your first episode, I'll go ahead and start there. So this is my design. And so when I put out the pattern, I will have the description for, how to use the full skein plus 3 of the mini skeins. But of course, you could choose to do anything that you want with it. You could do it all one color. Somebody at Knit Night actually mentioned that he's got mini skeins from Space Cadet, so it's like, a whole year's worth of mini skeins, and he thought it would look really neat to do this with all of those mini skeins. So that could be something fun. So lots of different options. You wouldn't have to necessarily do exactly what I've done here. Anyway, this shawl, I feel like it has just taken so much of my time and energy into designing it. I don't remember exactly when I started working on it because I did not start a Ravelry project page when I started working on it. I remember that I got, I think about maybe about this far into it, kind of hold it down on the camera, so maybe about that far into it, and instead of the stockinette panel on the side, I was already using this stitch pattern. Well, the way the numbers work out with this stitch pattern is it never repeats with the increases. Basically, this panel increases one on this side, but not on this side. It's the center panel that increases on both sides, and that's what creates the shape. Anyway, so the numbers just didn't work out right with this stitch pattern, and I was having to chart out every single row. And honestly, just charting out every single row of this part makes for a lot of charts and a lot of written instructions for just that section of the pattern. So once I realized that, because I kept thinking, oh, now it's going to repeat. Now it's going to repeat. And then I would actually, and on paper it looked like it would repeat, and then I would get to the actual knitting and it didn't repeat. And then I would go back to paper and figure out, oh yeah, I thought that it did this and it didn't. And so I finally decided to rip it all out and to start over again. And it stayed in timeout for a long time until I finally decided what I wanted to do with it, which was keep the center stitch panel and then start with the stockinette. And then I wasn't really sure if I was going to keep it that way and have stockinette on the sides the whole way. I finally decided at the end that I did want to add in this stitch pattern. And I think I mentioned last time that I started running low on the green yarn, and I don't want to ever use up all of the skein of yarn, because I don't want people who maybe haven't checked their gauge to run out of yarn. And so that's why I decided to add in the purple. I thought about, getting another skein of the green and adding it in, but I didn't feel like I needed to use that much more of that second skein. And so that's why I thought the mini skeins would be really great. And then I was trying to figure out how to end the shawl, because trying to come up with an border basically for the ending is something that I always have to, any designer always has to think about. And I decided to go with a picot bind off. So I'll hold that close so you can see the picot bind off. If you've never done a picot bind off before, it basically involves you casting on some stitches, then binding some off. Binding off a few more stitches than you cast on, basically. Casting on a few stitches and then binding some off. Casting on some stitches and binding some off. So it's a bind off that takes a really, really long time. But I really like the way it looks. It really adds, if you look at that edge there, I think it really does add a nice ending to the shawl instead of just something that's straight across. It also poses some challenges in the blocking, because if you really want to emphasize each of those little points, you really should either use pins and block out each individual one. But that's really tedious, and I don't recommend doing that. Instead, using a blocking wire is something that is really nice, but a lot of times the blocking wires that you get are the rigid ones. And I mentioned last time that I had bought some flexible blocking wires. And so this is supposed to be a semicircular shawl, so you can see it's got a curved edge, not necessarily straight across. You can see more of the curve there. So I got to use those flexible blocking wires for the first time, and they worked fantastically. Really, really great. I'm very happy with how they worked. I was able to basically thread the wire through each of the picot points, and then once I did that, I could, just pull the wire. My cat is deciding to go crazy right now. I don't know if you can hear that. I got to, pull the wire basically into the shape and use pins to hold it into place. And yes, it took some time to, thread each of those points, but it would have taken a lot more time to use T-pins in each of those points, and then realize that, it's not quite, I don't have the right curve, and so I have to move this T-pin, and then that means I have to move all of these T-pins. I have done that before, by the way, so I know what I'm talking about. I think it takes even more time doing it that way. So very happy with those flexible blocking wires, see, crazy cat. And I'm really glad that I had them for this project. So the shawl is done, the sample is done. The pattern, it took me quite a while to get the pattern written out, because especially toward the end where I had to chart out all of those rows. I also had the written instructions for all of those rows. And my charting software does actually spit out written instructions, but because of the repeats, the written instructions were kind of silly. They didn't make sense. And so I had to go through and edit them to basically help the people who follow the written instructions, so it would be a lot easier to read. So that took some time. But finally I finished the written section, or all of the pattern instructions. And so the pattern is now with my tech editor, and it might take her a couple of weeks to finish it, because she has other work that she does, but she's also going to be moving in the middle of next month, so I know she's preparing for that. But it is with her right now. And then basically, I don't know if it'll get out in today's mail, but either today's mail or tomorrow's mail, this shawl will be going to the photographer. So I will be getting pictures of it. And then after I get it back from the tech editor, I will start looking for test knitters. And then once the test knit is done, then the pattern will finally be available for release. So it's a long process. Probably after the new year is when the pattern will be released. But if you are interested in test knitting, you can always send me an email or a PM on Ravelry. I am Kieran Dawn, and let me know that you're interested, and I can let you know when the test knit starts. So yeah, that is the shawl for today. It also kind of is the what I finished and what I'm designing sections. So it kind of goes into multiple sections, but I decided to have it be the featured shawl because it really has taken a long time from start to finish, and it's, like I said, not even finished since the pattern still has a ways to go before it is ready for release. But that is today's shawl. Just a couple of quick podcast announcements. We are doing the Q4 knit along. The theme is fandoms, and I will show you my thing that I am knitting for the knit along in the what I'm knitting section. But I hope that if you're interested in knitting any shawl that is inspired by any fandom, and we're really broad definition of what a fandom is, then I hope you will join us. The knit along basically runs through the end of the year. And there are a couple of giveaways that occur during the knit along. One of them has already happened. And so if you are interested in joining us, I will link in the show notes to the thread on Ravelry, or you can just search for the T-Shirts and Shawls podcast group on Ravelry, and there's a thread there. Speaking of that Ravelry group, there's also a thread in there called Questions for Karen. So if you have any questions you would like me to answer on the podcast, then feel free to post in that thread, and I will answer on the next podcast episode. And that's pretty much it for podcast announcements. So what I've been working on lately for knitting is my item for the Q4 knit along, which I'll show you in a minute. But the thing that I need to finish quickly is a sock that you've already seen, but I've made more progress on it so I can show it. So this sock, which is out of my self-striping yarn, this is Merlin self-striping in the Tarabl colorway, T-A-R-A-B-I-L. And I do actually have some of this colorway for sale in the online shop. So if you're interested, check that out, along with some other self-striping colors. But this is one of the first self-striping colors that I dyed, and I never did a sample of it. So this is finally my sample sock. And I have turned the heel. I just did a heel flap and gusset. And now I'm onto the foot. And I'm probably over the halfway point on the foot. So I think just another 1 or 2 knitting sessions, kind of evening sessions. Actually, probably 1 evening knitting session. I should get this done. I have the East Texas Fiber Festival coming up November 5th, so I want to have it done by then. As long as I actually put some time into it, that should not be a problem. So almost done. Next time you should see it as a what I'm finished. Then the other big thing that I am knitting is the Exploding TARDIS by Lori B Designs. And this is my, since it's Doctor Who fandom, this is for my fandom Q4 knit along shawl. So this is really neat because it uses short rows. So the sunlight is just going to blow out this yellow because it's a fluorescent yellow. So hopefully you can see the colors. So the shawl mostly works from this edge and then knits a series of short rows to create the stripes and the kind of flashing, I guess, so it's not just straight stripes across. And then this side is much narrower, all the way over there. And I think some of the stripes will get down that way. Anyway, so this is a lot of fun so far. Definitely getting some good practice with short rows. Lori uses German short rows in the pattern, which I think are fabulous short rows. Love, love, love German short rows. So definitely having a good time using those, although I did need a little bit of a refresher on how to work them since it's been a while. But once I remembered how to do it, super easy and love to do it. So I'm having fun with this pattern. The yarn is from Lazy Cat Yarn, who is a local dyer, Rebecca. And the blue is her police box colorway. And then the fluorescent yellow is, I should look this up, I think it's Zonkers. I can link to the project in the show notes and you guys can see it. So Lazy Cat Yarn. So good, it's her elemental base, which is just a good basic superwash merino that feels really nice to knit with. I'm enjoying knitting with it. And then the bag that I'm using, I showed you guys that I bought this bag. So it's my Exploding TARDIS bag. So definitely having a very thematic project with this one. So having lots of fun with that. And there are other things I'm knitting, but that's going to go in the what I'm designing section, so I'll talk about that there. And that's what I have been working on lately. So I already talked about this shawl, so I won't spend any more time talking about that. I have mentioned the Blood with cowl a few times, and in a way early episode I showed you guys the cowl. It's the blue one that has kind of the leaf motif on the bottom and then a flower motif going around. So it is called Blood with. The story, it's a woman who was created from flowers, and in the pattern I will share the story. But that pattern should be releasing really soon. It is in the hands of the graphic designer right now, so the final step, basically, layout. So as soon as I get it back from her, check it over, and make sure everything looks okay, I will be ready to release it. So look for that very soon. If you are on my mailing list, I will send out an email letting you know that it's released. And I will say that I do send a discount code specifically to people on the mailing list that is not available anywhere else. So if you want a discount on the pattern, make sure you are on my mailing list, and then make sure you open up the email that has the announcement for the pattern. So look for that soon. Yay, I'm glad that will finally be released. That one also has kind of been a long process. And then the other big thing that I'm working on still is, of course, the book project that I'm keeping under wraps. I did finish the first project. Ooh, I almost said what the project was. I did finish the first project, and I have done about a third of the second project, and it's moving a lot faster than the first one did. So I should be able to finish it probably in the next week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on what else I'm working on. And then I will continue working on the next one. I have 9 projects and all planned, so still a bit of a ways to go, but I feel like I am finally making progress after having this idea. It's probably been well, maybe not a year, close to a year since I first had the thought of the theme of the book. So it's been percolating in my head for a little while. So it's good to be working on that. And I will continue teasing you and not giving you specific details for a little while longer, until probably I get to about the 5th pattern. So over the halfway point, then I'll probably start teasing out a lot more details and let you know what the theme is and the project types and whatnot. So that's what I'm designing. That means that besides the book, I don't have any other designs on the needles right now. I need to decide whether I'm going to focus kind of solely on the book, which means I wouldn't have any individual patterns that I'd be working on, or if I want to try to also toss in an individual pattern or two while I'm doing that. It kind of depends on my mood, to be honest. How do I feel? Do I want to go off and design something else unrelated to the book? So we'll see what happens. Need to sit down and make some decisions there. But I'm looking forward to having the cowl, the Blood with cowl pattern being released pretty soon. I had to take off the shawl because the sun, I'm sure you can see, is just streaming in. The window's right there beside me, and it's kind of getting hot. So I took off the shawl because it's getting a little bit hot. Anyway, so what I am dyeing. I am still working on dyeing for the East Texas Fiber Festival, which will occur between now and the next podcast episode. So Saturday, November 5th, if you happen to be in East Texas, in Lindale, I would love to see you. And you can go to the East Texas Fiber Festival website, which I will link in the show notes to get more specific details about the location and time. And I am mostly dyeing Camelot right now. As I've mentioned, I have been going basically through the alphabet, through my dye book, to dye every colorway that I currently have available, so I can get that good look to see where I might have some gaps that I want to fill in and where I might want to possibly remove some colors. So I've been doing that on Camelot. And I am currently in the dye pot. I have colors that are in the P's. So I have Peleus and Pelennor in the dye pot today. And I have reskeined, so dried and reskeined through, I think through some L. No, maybe I got one L. Definitely the G's. I think definitely the G's. I don't remember exactly what's in the shop right now. But I've been listing them in the online shop as I've been finishing them. And then basically for that one day, I will take them all down from the online shop and then take them to the East Texas Fiber Festival. Anyway, so mostly they're on Camelot. So if you're interested, Camelot is my fingering weight merino cashmere nylon base. It's one that is the best seller because it's so soft. And once people feel it, it kind of almost ruins everything else. Because it really is wonderful. Anyway, so if you are interested in that, you can check out the online shop and kind of get a choice of colors as I am listing them. And then I'm also dyeing them on the Emery's mini skeins, which are the same base as Merlin, the self-striping sock yarn. So mostly the idea is that you could get a color that matches or potentially just goes with one of the self-striping colors and do your heels and toes so you don't mess up the pattern of the self-striping. But I decided to go ahead and also do all the colors on the mini skeins as well, just because sometimes it is easier to, especially when I'm kind of checking to see where the color families are and where some gaps are, it's easier to work with mini skeins for that. So I've been dyeing those, and I thought I would just kind of really quickly run through a few of those so you can see some of the colors. And for the mini skeins, I'm a little further behind than the Camelot as far as where I am in dyeing, because I'm actually, I create the mini skein. I get the yarn in a cone and then I wind it into a mini skein. So I have to prep each one. So I got behind in my prep and need to catch up. So these are the mini skeins that I've done. So we're going to start A and we're going to go through G. So not very many. This is Ambrosius. It is a purple with hints of aqua. Agravain, which is a black cherry. Beaumains, which does not show up on camera at all. This is a really gorgeous deep turquoise. Not exactly what you're seeing on camera. Definitely much brighter and prettier in person. This is Bedivere, a nice fall orangey color. And now I've moved the skeins a little further away than where I'm sitting, so excuse me. Okay, next is Boars. This is navy blue. And the really bright yellow damsel. Another bright color, Dinidin. The sun is really not allowing you to see this one, but it's a really vivid green. Then I have this color. This is Dennis Emery's. And it is a color that is kind of a muted ice blue, maybe. I don't love this color. And Here's a little behind the scenes secret. I create this by mixing blue with just a little bit of orange, so that orange is across from blue on the color wheel, and so that's how I create that muted effect. And the orange sometimes just really wants to, even though it's only a tiny bit in there, it wants to take over. And so when I dyed this on Camelot, I got a lot of clumps of orange. I don't know if I just didn't stir, probably I just didn't stir in all of the dye. So it was really frustrating to have clumps of orange on this color. Not on the, it didn't happen on the mini skeins, just on Camelot. So I actually don't have it on Camelot because I over dyed that, because that just, it did not look good. So I over dyed it actually black. So I have 4 skeins of this color over dyed black on Camelot. Anyway, this color I think is gone. I'm going to discontinue it. So these skeins, the mini skeins, is the last chance, I guess, to get this color if you do happen to like it. It's just a pain to dye, I'll be honest. Then 3 more. This is Dendrain, which is a nice purple. Excalibur, which is gray, which on Camelot is probably the best-selling color. It's a really fantastic gray, and on the Camelot it shows up really nicely. And then finally, for this set, I have Gaheris, which is orange, that with the sun is not quite showing up exactly, but that's kind of a brighter orange, whereas the other orange is more fall orange. Anyway, so I've got A through G on the mini skeins done. I counted, I have 38 colors. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 out of 38. So I guess on the mini skeins, I still have quite a ways to go. So I will be working on those. So I guess dyeing A to Z, although I don't have any Z colors. I do have a Y color though. So A to Y. And trying to figure out exactly where I need to add in potentially some colors, and some colors like the Dennis Emery's that I need to remove. So it's definitely been an enlightening experience with doing this colorway. After I finish the Camelot and the mini skeins, I'm going to dye Tristan. That is my sport weight base. I am completely sold out of Tristan except for a little bit that is at the Knitting Fairy. So I need to sit down and figure out which colors I'm going to put on it, because I don't quite have enough Tristan undyed to dye every single color. So I need to figure out which colors I want to dye on it, and then I will be dyeing Tristan. So I guess if you are interested in that one, look for that color maybe toward the middle to end of November. That'll start showing up more in the online shop. So that is what I've been dyeing. Oh, you know what? There's more stuff I've been dyeing. Just a little tease, I've been thinking about some new self-striping colorways, in particular kind of a 3-stripe. So like Sword in the Stone is the 3-stripe, so something that would be that size of stripe. And I played around with some of my sample mini skeins where I can kind of put colors together, and came up with some potential color ideas. And I did take pictures of them, but that's something that I will probably be sharing. You know what, I think I'll probably do a newsletter. So if you're on my mailing list, you'll see this. Maybe do a little survey in my newsletter to see, I think I had 6, maybe 7, I think it was 6 different potential options. So I might let you guys vote and see what you like. There's one that I'm pretty sure is the one that is my favorite, but I'll share the pictures with you guys on the mailing list and let you choose. So look for new self-striping colorway options coming up. And that should take all the news of what I've been dyeing. I have one thing that I've added to my stash since the last episode, and that is the next monthly shipment from the Elemental Fiberworks Fiber Club that I'm part of, and I've shown these, this is the 4th time, so you guys have seen this multiple times. So this is the one that is based on those posters from NASA. Oh no, I just showed you. Based on the posters from NASA. And so each colorway is inspired by that. So this is this month's Mars colorway. So you can see lots of color going on in there. And so this is how it turned out on the fiber. And I have to say, I think this one is my favorite one so far. Probably because most of this is my colors. But I really, really like this one. And the fiber is a Polworth silk blend. And I have spun Polworth alone by itself before and really enjoyed that. So with the silk, it's really, really nice. I'm looking forward to spinning this. I think that will be something that doesn't stay in the fiber stash super long. Although you'll notice I don't have a what I'm spinning section in this episode, so there is also that. I have not been doing very much spinning, but I have some beautiful fiber to hopefully push me towards spinning. So that is Elemental Fiberworks, having fun getting that club shipment each month. And that's what I've been stashing. I've been reading a pretty fair amount over the past 2 weeks. I finished the fourth book in the Immortal Descendants series by April White. I've talked to you guys about that before. So I finished the fourth book, and it's a book that ended on a huge cliffhanger. And one that you want to read the next book right away, but of course the next book is not out yet. It hasn't been released, so I have to wait. And I did sign up for, when I finished the book, I did sign up for the author's mailing list, so that way I would be notified of when the fifth book is released. And actually it turns out it's pretty good timing, because she just sent out a message a couple of days ago that said that she just finished with the first draft of the fifth book, and it is with her developmental editor right now. So she's going to get comments on both from that and from some beta readers, and then be doing some editing and whatnot. But she actually has a pre-release date, or I guess a release date, and then it is on Amazon as a pre-release that you can go ahead and buy. And I forget the exact date, but it's sometime in January. Thinking maybe January 15th, somewhere in January, that the book is set to come out. So I'm really happy about that, knowing that I won't have to wait too much longer to find out what happens. And since it was available for pre-release, I went ahead and ordered the pre-release. So that way, when the book comes out, it gets automatically put on my Kindle. So, so that will be fun. And then I was trying to decide, what do I want to read next? Again, since I've kind of come off of books that I really enjoy, sometimes it's hard to find the next read. But there's a book that's been on my Kindle for a while that I've wanted to read, called The Paper Magician by, I wrote it down so I can get it right, Charlie N. Holmberg. And Charlie is actually a female author. So The Paper Magician, and it is, I don't know if it's a trilogy or if it's 3 books of a continuing series. I just know that there are 3 books right now. I never look too closely at that because I don't want to accidentally get a spoiler if I'm reading about a trilogy or series. Anyway, so the first book is called The Paper Magician, and it's a world in which magicians have one specific path that they pick, and they are able to manipulate and connect with and have power with particular man-made items. So paper or glass or metal or plastic, rubber, so various items that a magician could connect with. And the main character in the book really wants to be a smelter, which is one who has the magic over metals. But apparently there aren't very many paper magicians anymore, because paper is kind of seen as not a very exciting or powerful magic. And so she is actually kind of forced into bonding with paper and choosing that as her path. And so she enters into, she's graduated from magician school, and she is entering into her apprenticeship. And so that's where the book starts, where she doesn't want to become a paper magician, but it's either paper or nothing, and she'd rather be a magician, even a paper magician, than nothing at all. So she goes ahead with the apprenticeship, and finds out that maybe paper is a little bit more exciting and interesting than she thought, and gets into, you know, obviously a huge adventure. Otherwise there wouldn't be much of a book. But I really am liking the story. I really like the characters. I like, I guess I kind of like seeing the power of paper, because there are some parts to it that also kind of goes into some story. Like, she reads a children's book and is able to put the magic behind it to create kind of an illusion of the illustrations in the book. So they kind of act out the words, and so that's kind of a neat thing. But especially the characters. I think that the author has done a really great job with the characters, and that's one of the things I enjoy most about reading. So I liked it so much that I actually finished the first book and immediately bought the second book. So the second book is The Glass Magician. So that is the one I'm reading now, and I think I'm at like the 60% mark or something like that on the book. So definitely over the halfway point on that book. And making sure that I have time to read it, because I really, really enjoy it. And then I know there is a third book, but I don't know the title of it, because, like I said, I don't want to accidentally read any spoilers. But I imagine that I will probably go right into that third book, since I'm enjoying these first two so much. So definitely, if you have not read that, and if that sounded at all exciting to you, I'm definitely recommending those books as well. So that was fun, or is fun. As far as what I'm listening to, I am working through some of the Great Courses classes. I've mentioned that before, I believe. I finished the one on the A Skeptic's Guide to American History, which I found a lot of it to be not super exciting. Like I mentioned last time, not completely interested in the details of American history. But interestingly, I found myself a lot more interested when it got to the 20th century. And I wonder if that's because I honestly don't know that much about 20th century American history, because in our history classes, you know, all throughout junior high and high school, and even some in college, just because of time, spent so much time at the beginning of American history that by the end of the semester, the end of the year, there really wasn't enough time to cover 20th century. I remember we would kind of get up to the Great Depression, and that would be about it. And never really got that much further. So I don't know. I mean, I know a little bit just from what I've read otherwise, but I don't know a lot about the Korean War, or the Vietnam War, or about Nixon and the Watergate scandal. I only know little bits. So it was actually really interesting to hear those parts of the audiobook, and it made me realize maybe I should read a little bit more about more modern American history. Apparently I enjoy that a little bit more than the beginnings of American history, which is kind of odd because, you know, as far as England is concerned, I'm much more interested in the medieval, so the older stuff, than I am in the more modern types of history. So I guess it's a flip-flop with British versus American history for me. So I did find the last sections of that audiobook Great Course to be interesting. And then I started, and I wrote down the full title because it's a long title and I wanted to remember it right. I started Lost Christianities, Christian Scriptures, and the Battles Over Authentication. So this is a history of Christianity course, and it is looking at basically the scriptures that did not make it into the canon, did not make it into the Bible. I think it's the Council of Nicaea, I think that's the right name, that decided on which books would actually be officially in what we think of today as the Bible. So it's talking... This Great Courses is talking a lot about those books. Excuse me. So this course is talking a lot about those books that are not seen as canonical books. Some of them we actually do have, and some of them we only know about from references to them. And so the course also talks about what, compared to the Orthodox beliefs, what heresies were kind of around in the early centuries of Christianity. So I really find the history of religion, not just Christianity, a lot of any religion, I really find that a fascinating topic. So this is a pretty interesting book, kind of seeing what earlier Christian sects believed. And I think that the next book in the Great Courses series, I just got one on Buddhism, and so I will probably read that one next. Like I said, like reading a lot about learning about different religions. So I think that one will be the next one. We'll see. I'm still probably only halfway through this one, so it'll take me a while to get through it. But I am enjoying learning about those things. And then that should be it for as far as what I'm reading. As far as what I'm watching, we have our shows that we are continuing to watch each evening, because this week I had my knit night on Monday and then a knitting guild meeting on Tuesday. We're a little behind in this week's TV viewing. So last night I did not see the new episode of American Horror Story, which if I had totally realized that I don't think that I remembered that last night was Wednesday and it came on, I would have insisted that we watch that, because I've really been enjoying this season of American Horror Story. But instead we watched a couple of other things. So tonight we'll watch American Horror Story. But I'm not going to give any spoilers, because if you are watching it, I don't want to give anything away. But I will say that last week's episode really added a twist to it that I'm enjoying a lot. And as I was driving home from dropping my son off at preschool today, the person on the radio started talking about American Horror Story and said that there was another twist in last night's episode. And I turned off the radio at that point because I didn't want to hear anything more about it. So I am looking forward to watching that episode and seeing what that next big... I think he said there was a big bombshell that was dropped. So maybe not a twist, but a bombshell. So I guess now I will be expecting something to happen, but I don't know yet what it is. So enjoying that along with some of the other stuff that we watch. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about. So I really like Jane Austen's books. And for the most part, I enjoy the movie adaptations. And so fairly recently, there was a movie adaptation of one of Jane Austen's incomplete works called Lady Susan. And I've never read Lady Susan. I do actually own a copy, but I haven't actually read it yet. And so the movie is called Love and Friendship. And I was really interested in watching it, but never got a chance to watch it. And now it's available for streaming on Amazon Prime. So I'm an Amazon Prime member. And so yesterday I started watching it while I was rescanning some of those mini skeins. So I started watching it, and I have to say, I was not enjoying it. Maybe it got better, but it was very confusing. There were a lot of characters, and they actually, on the screen put the character's name and kind of who they were whenever they were introduced into the movie. But even with that, I was just having a hard time keeping track, and it seemed like there were scenes that were just kind of jumping around, and they weren't really... They were connected, but it wasn't clear like how much time had passed and exactly what was going on. So I stopped it. I think I got about 20 minutes in, and I just decided, you know what? I'm really not liking this. I don't feel like I'm wasting my time on it. So maybe it gets better. If you've watched it and you did really enjoy it and think that I should give it another chance, let me know, because normally I do really like Jane Austen. So if you liked it, let me know. Otherwise, right now I say that I really can't recommend it because it just really didn't get my attention. And so I guess I'm not going to waste time on watching that. Instead, I switched back over to the Myth Hunters show that I talked about last time and watched a couple more episodes of that one. Finished the one on the True Cross, and so now I'm into, which was the last episode of the first season, so now I'm into the second season. I had already watched the one on King Arthur, so I skipped over that one, and I think now it's the second episode I'm on, which is about the Dutchman's gold mine in the Superstition Mountains. So I'm almost finished with that one. So spending a bit better use of my time, hopefully enjoying the Myth Hunters show. Anyway, that's what I have been reading and watching. So that's it for this episode of T-Shirts and Shawls. If you are, if you made it all the way to the end, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you have any questions, make sure you go to the Ravelry group. You can put the questions for Karen thread. Ask me any question that you want to me to answer on the podcast. If you want to comment on the this episode, have a discussion, I have a discussion thread in the Ravelry group as well. So check out the episode 12 discussion thread. And I look forward to hearing anything that you have to say. And I will be back in 2 weeks with episode 13, lucky number 13. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful 2 weeks and happy knitting!